rich in the days when I was designing for UA. And that converter kind of came and went. And I think I was thumbing through Mix magazine, and there was a lot of buzz that you guys were coming out with the Mothership. Started checking it out. Transformers intrigued me because right now I'm doing a lot of electronica, and I wanted to humanize stuff that was coming off computers, basically. And so I thought, okay, what if you had something that sounded like tape, a converter that humanized basically what was coming off a laptop or out of the various DAWs, soft synths coming through transformers. And I mean, it's a winner. I mean, the amount of depth, space, and width you can get off BURL converters is amazing. So, I mean, I've auditioned a lot of converters. Previously we had 192s, and 192 is your standard converter. It's a little sterile. Stereo field's a little flat, and lots of records were made on 192s, but it lacked depth as far as converters. And I started looking at higher and higher end converters, and everybody always talks about purity of sound. Like the cleanest, like you have to, if you're gonna buy a high-end converter, you have to get the cleanest, most pristine sound coming off that converter. And if you start thinking about tape and the magic that tape produced in the 70s and the early 80s, you're not talking about pristine. You're talking about distortion and how distortion affects human hearing. And so I'd audition a high-end converter, and it's like, yeah, it sounds great, but there's still something missing. And the first time I heard the Mothership, my jaw dropped. The extension of bass straight into the floor, like it was just grounded into the floor. The sparkle on the highs, and beautiful mids. And it's the way the human ear hears. And the beauty of it is when you push it, it's beautiful. When you pull back, it's beautiful. And it does that thing that you seek when you're mixing, which is when you push it hard, the stereo field opens up and everything kind of pops forward. And you can't get that in any other converter except for the BURL. So on the Vancouver, it's great because if you want it to be clean, it can be clean. If you want it to be pushed, you can slam a signal into it, and it does that beautiful thing where you get the breakup in the transformer, which pushes everything way out, widens everything. You get the high-end sparkle, and then you can kind of pull it back. And the way I pull it back is I'll slam it, and then I'll just attenuate it coming back into Pro Tools. The one thing that I've noticed mixing into the Vancouver, the mastering engineers call, and they say, what is this? Why is it so easy now to master your stuff? And it's a lot has to do with the pre-mix is so close to being master perfect that a lot of people don't think that my pre-mixes aren't mastered. So really in mastering, all we're doing is boosting levels and kind of gluing it a little bit more together. But the Vancouver does do a lot of glue, especially when you hit it hard. I do a lot of different types of music, but lately I've been doing a lot of electronica. And one of the things that's bugged me for a very long time is when you mix on a laptop or mix in the box, you don't get the depth in the recording that you used to get in the 70s and the early 80s, and also the 60s for that matter. There's a flatness and an overcompression. And then when you add in, you know, digital summing, you get a completely flat stereo field that, you know, most people can hear, but what if you could get a lot of depth? What the BURL stuff does is allows for a lot of depth and a lot of width and a lot of height. And so with the summing, you're taking stems from a session, if you're doing a mix or if you're producing in here, and using plugins and having go out to summing, you're treating the session like like you would be doing it in the 70s. And so all of a sudden, what used to just sound like a flat soft synth now has serious balls. If it's a bass sound, everything sounds more human, a lot less digital. It's an amazing process when you can humanize the digital realm. It's mind-blowing, and it's a game changer. And luckily, not a lot of people have found out in my world, because it's a tool that allows me to be one step totally ahead of the game. The B26, it's an elegant solution, not complicated. It's like you took it right out of a console, very easy to use, laid out perfectly, incredibly clean, incredibly accurate. It's the piece of gear that you want on that front end, where it does its job and it does it so you don't have to think about it. And I compared a lot of different monitoring sections. You know, there are some that have a lot more features, but you want simplicity there. You want the signal to pass through it and not be touched. It's incredibly accurate. The op amps, the discrete op amps that you guys built are beautiful. The bass extension is straight into the floor. A lot of the comments I get, again, from the mastering engineers is that they don't have to touch the mixes hardly at all. The speed in which mixes are done have been decreased in half. When you boost or cut on an EQ, between the BURL and the sound treatment, what you hear is what you get. And so there's no more formula in my head. I just trust my ears. I don't have to go, okay, I'm cutting here, but I know that the room it's not really accurate, so I have to compensate. There's literally no more guesswork. The translation is phenomenal. From small speakers in a laptop to a big sound system, there is no difference. It's just a matter of hearing more resolution. So with the B26, I'm using it a little bit non-standard. I'm using the A and B input. A goes to my mains and B goes to my subs. And the reason why I do that is because I want to be able to turn my subs off. And then on the studio side, I use it for tracking. In the configuration I have it set up right now, I use actually the studio volume for a beauty sub. When I'm not when I track, I take that off and I use it as a standard studio section. It's totally transparent. Step attenuator is great. It does the job and it does it really well. The monitor control in a studio is actually the most important thing because it's the last thing in the chain. Without good monitoring, you're not really hearing what you're doing. So it wouldn't matter. If my monitoring section was crappy, it doesn't matter how good the rest of the gear in the studio is. It is actually one of the most important things in a studio, and it's often overlooked. You know, a lot of the prosumer stuff is very marginal. A lot of some of the higher end stuff is kind of marginal too. You don't want any color. You want it to be as clean, as silent, as pristine as possible, and not super complicated, because you don't want to have to be pressing a bunch of buttons to get to where you want. Plus, you don't want it playing with your levels. What you put in is what you should get out. And that's what the Orca does. And it does it very well. There's always been those special pieces of gear. You know, the gear of the past that you seek, you know, now. BURL is like a modern day version of that gear that in 10 to 20 years, people are going to seek out, because BURL audio has soul.